Let's go. Good morning. This is a special edition of our Seasons on Saturday podcast. In previous sessions, we've featured interviews with John Paiva, Lee Shapiro, and Charlie Colello, all former members of the Four Seasons, and most recently, an interview with Robbie Robinson, who is Frankie's current musical director. Today, we have a special edition featuring a member of the Modern Gentlemen who backed Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons for over a decade in concerts and shows around the world, Brian Bingham. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning, Brian.
Introducing the group here, I'm Chuck. We have Tony and we have George, Brian, and the members of the Modern Gentlemen who are not with us this morning are Brian's brother Brandon, Landon Beard, and Todd Fournier, who also I'm sure send their best wishes. Okay, the Modern Gentlemen are known to many of our listeners for their appearances in live shows with Frankie in recent years, and on their own as the Modern Gentlemen. Brian is here today to share with us some of the experiences they have had as part of the Four Seasons and performing as the Modern Gentlemen after leaving the Four Season group. Brian, how did you meet Frankie and become a member of his backup group? Were you singing together as a group before that, or did you come together in auditions?
Well, a little bit of all that, actually. We were, a few of us were singing in Disneyland. We had a cappella group that we were singing with. And this was way before Jersey Boys, of course. And one of the guys that was in the a cappella group was singing with Frankie. And he was just in the group for a few months, but back in that time, there wasn't a lot of work to go around. So he was leaving to go do a job. So he referred like my brother and Landon and a few other folks to audition for Frankie. And so that's how we got the word. And then from there, we met at the audition and sang. And there was a few different guys from LA and auditioning. And then from that point on, there was like a cut. And then Robbie made the cut. And then we went to Frankie's house. And it ended up being a couple of us from the a cappella group from Disneyland. And so that's kind of how it all started.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did Bob Gaudio play any part in the selection of your group as backup?
No, not at all. No, it was just Frankie and Robbie, pretty much. Yeah. I didn't meet Bob until we did a couple shows in Nashville.
Okay. So what did you have to learn to represent and duplicate the sound of the Four Seasons that people remember? And who was responsible for your live show arrangements?
Oh, well, Robbie does all the live show arrangements. And then we just did our homework. I listened to all the old records and just did a lot of research on that because I've always loved vocal harmony, and especially with my brother and singing together our whole life. So I did a lot of research and just listened to that kind of style. Went in, and because Frankie was very just about the blend and wanting to hear how we listened to each other. And so we did a lot of that and harmonizing and flipping different parts and things of that nature. And so, yeah, just a lot of time in the studio with Frankie.
So it was just really an ongoing plan to understand how the sound came out and make the changes as you needed when the songs came up and there was a different tone that Frankie or Robbie was looking for.
Yeah, I think especially during that time, it was very much about a vocal group sound. A lot of us have been soloists and have done our own gigs, but it's quite a different thing when you have to find that sound to bring together and actually harmonize and blend and listen, especially, and that sort of thing. So it was great that we were all singing together in a group and not actors from a musical or something like that. So it was a different thing. It's a different thing when you're doing live music like that. In a real group.
How long did you have to rehearse for in a time frame before you actually did live concerts?
I'm going back to 2003 here. When I first joined, I think we did like a month or two, really. So I remember doing a couple rehearsals, and then we just kind of like went in on it with the full band, and just kind of got thrown into the fire. But it was cool. I miss those days. It was a lot of fun.
Okay, Frankie is known to pick professionals, and it sounds like you guys were really professional and could move right into the groove with him.
Yeah, thank you. I think he liked us obviously, and he always calls us his kids, and
His
we still
kids,
talk
yeah.
some. Yeah, yeah. I mean, even at the what was it the his 90th birthday at the Walk of Fame, it was like we picked up where we left off, and he's got Brandon and I talking about what we need to be doing and being like a dad to us and all that stuff. So it's we have
Cool.
great camaraderie, and it's a special relationship for sure.
That's great.
Say, speaking of that, dad and kids, I would be interested in your kind of your personal reaction because when you first joined, Frankie would have been around what, 70 years old, and you were probably what, 20 or 21, quite an age difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your reaction? You had been with this a cappella group at Disney World, and then you're exposed to this obviously much older gentleman. How familiar were you with Frankie, the Four Seasons, their songs at that time?
Good question. I'll be honest with you. I didn't know what he looked like. I knew all the songs because I sang a lot of his hits in like choir when I was a kid in junior high school and that stuff. So I knew his music, but I didn't associate him with the music per se. Um, so when I went into the first rehearsal, I kept asking him like, "Is that guy over there, Frankie?" Or like I didn't know what he looked like. I mean, I was like you said, I was young, and Frankie was 60, 69, I think at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was we were kids, so I didn't know. But I'm like, oh, that's his hit. This is his song too. Oh my God. So it kind of opened my eyes, and then I immediately associated the two together, and then it was from there. It was awesome. But yeah, yeah,
It's interesting.
yeah.
The other thing, giving my own sort of personal recollection, having followed the Four Seasons, right from the start, from 1962, been to all their concerts. I recall right about at 2000, he sort of seemed to have taken a break, and I don't remember him having concerts then. But then the first one I saw, which maybe was around 2003, I don't want to say I was shocked, but it was kind of a surprise. I see Frankie, and there's these four young men sort of singing and dancing behind him. For a long time Four Season fan, that was quite a change. But
Yeah.
I don't. I may not be remembering correctly, but the members at that time, the first sort of new Four Season group with that concept, there were these two brothers. I think there were the Martinez brothers, and there was a fellow named Bates, Eric Bates, I think, and then I think it was Landon Beard. Those were the first four I remember. I could be remembering.
Same here. Same here. You're right, Anthony.
Well, the first were before all of us, so I can tell you there were a few other guys that if you look at the anthology, it's a good way on the album, and I don't know if it was Ken that did that or but
I
there
was
was
told
there
it was Robbie Robinson who took it from the accountant, the paycheck, record of
well,
paycheck.
yeah, so around 2000 there was a group of guys. There was guys like Bobby Hudson, there
Yeah,
was Andy Tyler, a couple other names.
yeah,
I'm trying to think out loud. And then the guy that was in our group at Disneyland before us. So there was an incarnation for a while, but it was like a rotating door of guys that were coming around because there was
yeah,
maybe Frankie wasn't doing a lot of shows at that point. So the
right.
turnover was quite a bit. But then come around 2002, actually Todd Fournier joined the group before all of us. So Todd came in with Jason Martinez, Andy Tyler, and Bobby Hudson. And then Bobby left, Andy left, and that's when I first came into audition with a bunch of people from the acapella group at Disneyland. So myself, Landon, my brother, and a few other guys all went in, and there was only two spots at that point. So Landon and I joined in 2003, and then Jason Martinez was still in the group. So it was myself, Bobby, Landon, and Jason. Jason went off to do Jersey Boys, came back. It's this whole kind of
Yeah.
revolving door, like I said. But at one point, it was the Martinez brothers and the Brigham brothers together. So
Yeah.
that was a lot of fun. We had a blast. Two sets of brothers.
Oh,
So
that's great.
yeah,
Oh, well,
yeah,
thank you for that. Going over the personnel list that's in the book in the box set, there were names that I didn't recognize. I assumed that they were early members of the new Four Seasons, but I had never I hadn't seen them in concert. So
Yeah,
uh,
it's like a little foggy time where the
yeah.
turnover was quite a bit, but there was a lot of guys that came and left. So yeah,
So it
yeah,
was
but
really
we were
about 2000, starting around 2003, when the group sort of stabilized. Would you
for the
say?
most part, yeah, we started getting busier, and then of course 2004 Jersey Boys came out, and that kind of just catapulted everything. Of course, as you know, and then I've come and gone a couple times too. My brother and I have left, so it's a family though, because we kept in touch and we would come and go. And Frankie always wanted us to do our thing, but I think around 2004 or five or whatever it was, the four of us were the core group for about 12 years, which,
Yeah. Yeah.
give or take, but I was with Frankie about 15 years or so. So, but the four of us were together probably longer than any incarnation of the
Yeah.
groups.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. Till about 2018, I think was.
Yep.
That was the
Yep.
other thing was, if you didn't actually follow, with concerts on a yearly basis, the perception is that you were patterned after the Jersey Boys, but I remember that you actually preceded the Jersey Boys. You came before them, and
Yeah.
we did verify that with Robbie Robinson when we interviewed him. That he said that occurred before Jersey Boys, and
Yes.
it was all Frankie's idea to sort of bring some, more variety into the act with the dancing, etc.
Yeah. That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Who now? I think you have some background in musical theater and the like. So you were used to dancing. I guess it wasn't a completely new experience. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. We're all, musical theater based backgrounds for the most part,
Right.
and sung, we've acted. So it's quite a set of skills you kind of need. You got to harmonize, you got to sing, you got to dance, you got to be personable,
Right.
and all that stuff. So yeah, yeah, that's
Now,
right. We've all done musicals and Broadway and tours and
now,
mhm.
who was responsible for the choreography? Did you just get together, or did you actually have someone who, you know, wrote
There's an
this?
original choreographer, Dory Sanchez. She did a lot of the choreography initially, and then I think she came back kind of towards the tail end of when we were leaving. She would come in and touch some things up. But over that course of time, we've had many different choreographers, and
Yeah.
even Jason Martinez, his wife, did a lot of our choreography, and does a lot of our stuff with the Modern Gentleman. So
Yeah.
it's a tight knit group of people that kind of all have some input there.
Now, now you mentioned like people were coming and going, things, I guess initially, and that was sort of a slower period in Frankie's career until, Jersey Boys led to that sort of rejuvenation. But I I saw a video. I didn't actually see this, where you and your brother backed up Jay Black when he was and
Oh,
he
that's
was
right.
doing one of the PBS shows. I don't know exactly what year that was, but the group was called the Alley Cats,
Yeah, so this is 2011. Um,
2011. Yeah,
yeah, it was in Pittsburgh at the Benedum Center.
Ah,
right.
So my brother Todd, Landon, even at one point, there's this doo-wop group, a cappella, that we've all sung with for years called the Alley Cats. They're based out of Orange County, California, and they're our brothers. And so when we weren't working with Frankie, it's just so easy to slot into this doo-wop stuff and sing and have some great times and sing. And so the Alley Cats were tasked to back up a lot of these entertainers
Yeah,
from
yeah.
50s and 60s and do these PBS specials. So that's how Brandon and I, of course, went in and we knew Peter Noon and all those other guys from working with Frankie. So it was just a great connection. And then to hang out with Jay Black all week was incredible. I mean,
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about just a persona and a singer, and he was
Yes.
super cool, and he liked us a lot, and I cherish those days.
I attended
right.
one of those PBS concerts because I'm from Pittsburgh, and that's where they
Yeah.
were held. And this was in about 2002. I think it might have been one of the first ones. And Frankie actually was the co-host, him and Jerry Butler. And Jay Black sang on that one, Cara Mia. And that's why I got a little confused. But the Alley Cats were not backing him up. It was just some, I don't know, some backup band at the time. But he sang Cara Mia as well. So
Yeah, yeah. Small world. It's all intertwined, and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
All the
it's a
same
cool community
family.
to be part of. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Especially too, if I may add, just knowing that Jay Black and the Americans and Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, from what I understand, because I was much too young to attend any of those concerts in the early 70s, maybe late 60s, how they performed together. Am I
Yeah, they
correct?
toured together. Yeah.
Toured together.
hmm
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, before Jersey Boys, that would occur quite a bit. So, I mean, just instead of just having Frankie on the bill, we'd work
Right.
with little Anthony and the Imperials, who's still a dear friend of mine today, and a great person I reach out to if I have questions and things. And Peter Noon, like I said, Felix Cavallari. I mean, those are some of the best
Well,
times because we'd be on the bill with all these different acts, and it was just so fun to be in the wings and listen, and then we do our set. But that's to me, that was some of the most fun times I had in the band.
that is great. That is something else. Any other questions, Anthony, or can I ask a couple?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah.
That's
But I want to
right.
ask you, when you left the Four Seasons and became a standalone musical group, how did the transition go? And what year did you leave the
Yeah,
Four Seasons band?
we left March of 2018 was our last concert. See, like prior to this, we in our off time we'd start booking gigs with the Modern Gentlemen, but the problem is like a lot of theaters and like showrooms want to book you in advance, obviously, like a year out. But we didn't quite know our schedule with Frankie, so it was very tough because we weren't allowed to sub out of Frankie's shows or. So it was one of those things where we had to kind of take a leap of faith, and but it was Frankie that kind of gave us the nudge to kind of be our own group and working in what we were doing, and he supported us, and it was very smooth in that regard. Like he gave us his blessing and said, do your thing, and I think you guys are good enough to do it. And so it just became one of those moments we had a stringy gig to commit to, and we had to follow our dreams, and I think that it was the time to do it. And so that's came about.
Yeah, and that's great. It sounds very similar to Lee Shapiro and his Hitmen, who say he also had the support of Frankie Valli also.
Mm-hmm.
Catalog and to go out and perform. Real quick, another question here. You've released 4 CDs as the Modern Gentleman, 2 with pop songs and 2 Christmas albums. They seem to be available online or at shows, but any outlets that still sell physical media, there you go, Charles has one up. They don't seem to be out in some of the bins at some of the outlets, as stated, that do sell physical media. Will any of them be distributed in that arena?
We were supposed to have the Christmas one was distributed by the Orchard, which was Sony, but it never made it to like any stores. It's like the only way people are really selling CDs are live performance after concerts these days. Unless you're a real big name or it's not really in Target or Walmart or anything like that, unfortunately. But yeah, it's tough now with the physical CDs, and everybody's listening to everything online now.
Yeah. Okay.
If we could go back in time,
Go ahead.
back in 2012, as members of the Four Seasons, you were with Frankie Valli. You re-recorded a version of the Night, a song that was done in multiple versions back in the years they were with Motown. Can you tell us a little bit about how that happened?
Yeah, it was the whole idea initially was that song was going to be. It was the first time we were coming back to the UK, and so we had a string of shows coming up at Royal Albert Hall, Hampton Court, you name it. We were going to go on this big UK tour, and the Night was a big hit over there.
Yeah.
So they wanted to redo it. So honestly, I'm the voice of all parts on that song. If you listen to the recording, so I went in the studio with Robbie and Frankie, and I recorded all the background vocals that you hear. So when you hear it, the beginning, especially the beginning of the song or the end, that whole tag of the night, that's.
That's great, Brian.
Yeah.
Whose idea was it to change that fantastic intro, though?
Yeah, I'll let you ask Robbie and Frankie that one. But I'd be in the studio with those two guys like quite a bit. I'll just be
Yeah.
sitting on the couch. I'll let them, they talk at the operator booth, and I'm just sitting there, on my phone, just having a cup of coffee. I'll let you guys figure it out. I learned that. I just keep my mouth shut.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I would go. He would
What,
tell me, try this, and so I'd sing the top line, and I was always able to sing all the vocal parts. So I would sing, my brother's top line. I'd sing bass. Even within the group, I would switch parts over the years. So I've sung 3 or 4 different parts in the group. So they kind of used me as a guinea pig to go in there and try all this different harmonies and stuff. So, and that's what stuck, and it's on the recording. And yeah.
Yeah, I'm hearing it now in my head. You're absolutely right, and I love that version.
That's
what
amazing.
I've
Thank you.
always, what I've always found interesting about that song, and I have the British single, having got some relatives from England, but that when Frankie introduces that song in concerts and starts singing it, the audience is like a deer with in the headlights. They're clueless. They've never heard. Most people have never heard that song in this country, especially on the west side of the
True.
country. Yes,
True.
it's interesting.
Yeah, it's fun song, but you go across the pond, it's a total different
It's a
story.
big hit.
I mean,
Yeah.
even just the vibe of the crowds over there is so different. It's incredible.
Wow.
When you were talking about singing all parts, I've been trying to figure out, in your harmonies, who has what part. I'm one. I saw a video where Landon Beard was singing Sherry or something, and then
Oh yeah, no,
other
yeah.
times he seems to sing the bass.
Well, it was Stay, so he would sing Stay because we thought it was funny. He's like, I can sing. We do a lot of like shtick and banter in our show, and
okay.
so Landon was kind of joking with my brother that sings all the high stuff normally, and says I can sing just as high as you, and so he sings Stay, and he goes up to the top, and my brother's like, I'll sing bass, and it was a fun little moment. We used to do that in our show. We haven't done it in a while, but yeah, that's what you're probably referring to.
Yes, that is. Yeah, going back to the PBS specials, you were featured in this one where it was dedicated to doo-wop songs, but they invited like young people, and you were in that,
Mhm.
to sort of sing with the original artists. And I think
Mhm.
group sang with the remaining members of the Skyliners. And your brother, I think, did the Jimmy Beaumont part, and I thought did a really great job there.
Thank you.
That was great.
Yeah, he really did. It was an honor because I think he just passed a month or 2 prior to that concert, and it was the first time the group was back on stage. And that was also one of the first opportunities we had, knowing that we were going to go out on our own full time. So it was a special moment to be a part of. I think one of the most touching moments of the show, actually, because the band was still emotional about Jimmy's loss, and to be together with them and having Brandon tribute Jimmy and their being there as well was very, very special.
Go ahead, please.
I was just going to say, on
Go
that same show, I think you also did a great version of A Sunday Kind of Love, which is one of my favorite Four Season ballads, A Sunday Kind of Love.
Thanks. We were warming up the crowd, and I guess they ended up taking it. So we weren't,
wow.
We were only supposed to do the Skyliners tune, and we get there, and the producer's like, what else can you do? And we're like, well, we can do a lot. And so we just kind of start vamping, and I think they recorded that song when we were just kind of waiting for things to happen. And it was probably like the Skyliners thing, by the way, that was filmed at like 12:30 midnight or something like that. So, I mean, it was one of these things that just go on. And so you're waiting for the different, the scenery and the sets to kind of change. So in the process of that, we're like, let's sing Sunday Kind of Love a cappella. And they kept it, recorded it, put it out there in the special. And we had no intention of thinking that was going to happen. But thank you. Yeah.
Great. Brian, I know you mentioned early on that you didn't meet Bob Gaudio till later on after joining the Four Seasons band. But throughout your career with Valli and the Seasons, did you have any workings with Bob Gaudio, or any interactions or any input from him on your performance?
Only in regards to our time with Frankie. He loved what the four of us sounded like, of course, and it was great to, every time we were in Nashville, he would be there, and we'd always take moments to speak with him and chat and tell him what we're doing and that sort of thing. But beyond that, as far as the Modern Gentleman, nothing. No, he was very much, his thing was the Jersey Boys and that sort of stuff. But yeah.
Okay, great. Question here. can you describe any unexpected or unanticipated situations you faced going out on your own? And for those listeners interested, can you explain how one would go about booking a performance or requesting a show of the Modern Gentleman in their area?
Oh, yeah. Well, going out on your own is scary. It's tough. It's a lot more work. It's harder. It's nice when you sing with the legend, you know, you show up, I don't have to do anything. I just, you know, I test my mic, you know, it's on. Okay, cool. Put my suit on. But when it comes to the four of us, we don't have a tour manager. It's, you know, I'm kind of like the tour manager. We don't have a big crew of people. So all the stuff that happens prior to the show is quite a bit. You know, we have to rehearse our band. We have to do our own logistics to get to the theater, and so you do appreciate those moments of being taken care of in that regard. But it's a lot more special when you know that, and fulfilling when you know you're doing your own thing. And so it's tough, but you definitely gain a lot of appreciation for that. And in regards to booking us, we perform all over. So we have an agent. We also book a lot of our own things, but we have a big presence on social media, which I think these days especially helps with all the marketing. So we're always putting out videos and new music and different styles. TikTok, you have to laugh sometimes and just sit around.
Them. I love them. They're great.
Yeah, but we've got a lot of work off of TikTok and YouTube and you name it. So, but that's the way to do it these days.
Great. And I know this month you're coming. I believe it's called the Paula Casino.
Yeah, we're at Paula Casino, which is outside of like Temecula area in California. We're going to be there in 2 weeks actually from today. Yeah. So the November 23rd, we'll be there, and then which is nice. Like we don't perform a lot in Southern California too much.
No, you don't.
So, but we have that one coming up. We have a holiday show which we're proud of on December 6th at the Redlands Bowl. It's a beautiful outdoor amphitheater, and they get thousands of people to show up. It's the nation's oldest free festival. So it's a lot of fun. They don't charge anything. It's all donation based, and it's a lot of fun. So yeah, we got a lot of great things coming up, thankfully.
That's great. That's great. Charles, did you have any other questions here, or Anthony?
Well, I just wondered, you know, you've done a lot of things, a lot more things than I was aware of before we started talking. But in your time with as part of the Four Seasons, is there one most memorable concert or concert series that you could remember?
Of course, and I'll take you back to 2012. It was our first time back, like I said, to the UK. It was the Royal Albert Hall, and I'll share this with you because I'm sure he wouldn't mind me telling this. But we're sitting out there. I can tell you a lot of stories about this particular tour, but this one I'll always remember. We were getting ready to take the stage for the first time at Royal Albert Hall, and it was just wonderful. We did the whole show, and just standing ovation. We come off stage, the four of us with Frankie, and we're all in tears. Frankie's like, you know, a tear in his eye, and we all hug each other. And it was just like, it was such a special moment and camaraderie. And it was incredible. Cause I've never like performed in a theater of that magnitude before. So for me, that was one of the most special moments I've ever had in the group. And it was just like, you know, one of those bonding moments. And then we're sitting out there afterwards singing a cappella in Royal Albert Hall. And I posted one of the videos of that too, where we're just sitting out there having a drink on stage and just singing and just having a great time. But yeah, that was the most special time I think.
What a moment to cherish. Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh geez.
Oh yeah.
I would have guessed that. And I've only seen the video, and even the video has such a great impact. So I could imagine in person. The English audiences actually even seem more interactive than American.
They are tough.
They sort of just and all kind of sing along, and you know, I can imagine how touched you are with that.
Oh, when you sing "Can't Take My Eyes Off You," they become the horn section. They're all ba-da, 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 ba-da. That's what they do, and it's like a symphony of just voices, and it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
All right, so that's definitely one of the high.
Another,
I don't know if you would consider this a highlight, but I found it to be tremendous. Was when the group I think it was at the Fiesta Bowl. I don't remember exactly the year, but you sang the Star Spangled Banner, and
Yes.
it was a special sort of vocal harmony. I might even say kind of a doo-wop version of the Star Spangled Banner, which I thought was really tremendous.
Thank you. And that was actually working with Gaudio, now that I recall. So Gaudio did the arrangement with Robbie, and I remember doing conference calls with him on this one. So this was probably like 2008. And we worked on that thing for a while, a couple different iterations of it, but it was definitely Gaudio influenced. And that was a lot of fun. That eagle that kept flying around wouldn't land.
Yeah,
And yeah,
it did really well.
yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was cool.
Real nice. Well, you know, if I may, Charles, I've seen you throughout the years, but two concerts that really come to mind was at the Greek Theater, I think in 05 or 06, All-American, American Great Singers, which that concert can be seen on YouTube. That was a great show. That was where Bob Crew and Kenny Nolan were in attendance. That was an awesome show at the Greek. And then another time was in Los Angeles back in September of 07 when you did the Jimmy Kimmel show. That was great. That was great.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I had taken a few. I don't know if you can see these if they're showing up here, but
Your background is blocked. Oh, there you go. Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, a few pictures of you folks rehearsing on stage.
Oh, cool.
There's another one. You're there in the corner. I arrived about an hour earlier, so I got to see you guys rehearsing. But it was just great. Had the opportunity real quick to meet Frankie Valli here.
Awesome.
But you guys were just great. I mean, so alive, so alert, the movements, and it was so great to hear Robbie share, as Anthony mentioned earlier, how a lot of people thought your moves came from the Jersey Boys stage play, when in reality, those moves were taken from your stage show, from what Robbie shared with us. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you had to add that little show effect to it, because I mean, the guys obviously in the '60s didn't dance like that. Live.
No.
So, but you add that flair for the musical, but it was kind of interesting how it was in tandem of kind of what we were doing.
Right.
I
like when Valli brought on the the background singers and the dancers, because for me, I mean, you hear people different ways. Oh, that's not, the Four Seasons never were dancers, this and that. They didn't have backup singers like that. But to me, that was bringing the band forward in time.
Yeah.
And folks loved it. I mean, it was an exciting part of every show you guys were in.
They're very forward thinking. I mean, you got to give it to them, because I mean, he's survived 6 decades of just reinventing himself sometimes. So they're smart guys.
Still on the road today. My God, Jesus.
Tony and I are about the same age. I'm 77 going on 78. Tony, you're what, 76, 77?
76, yeah.
Yeah.
We both started out with the original Sherry. And that caught our eye, I guess. We caught our ear.
Ears and hearts and minds.
And we both followed them through the years, and we both lived in very different parts of the country. I've been fortunate enough to live on the West Coast, start out on the West Coast, and then moved in various job assignments to the Midwest and East, and even some overseas assignments where I've been in Europe and seen the reactions in Europe and Australia. But I've never really understood how some parts of the country, the Four Seasons are ingrained as a critical memory, and other parts people don't even remember the name. Do you see that at all in where you tour? Do you have any thoughts on that? I'm curious, as somebody that's on the inside, how you see it versus the outsider.
Well, especially when I was younger, joining the group, like I said, I had to do all this research, and I didn't associate Frankie with the music, which I had to educate myself. But I do agree. I think if you hear a Beach Boys song on the radio, oh, that's the Beach Boys. Or a lot of people that might not know who they are will kind of maybe associate that a little bit more, or Beatles. But with Frankie's music, I didn't really associate that when I was young. So it took me some time to kind of educate myself and learn and listen. So yeah, I think that's unfortunately the case sometimes.
And Valli's catalog is so all over the place compared to the Beach Boys, where I see the Beach Boys one genre. Valli and his seasons, it's everything, all genres of music. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
God,
Yeah.
amazing,
Yep.
amazing.
Yep. That's right. Yeah.
Do
You
we
know, as we look forward to try and help working with Ken to create a legacy of the group, is there any focal point from the inside you can see that is a hook we can tag onto?
As far as a hook, as far as what
As
do you
far
mean?
as far as the music, you know,
Uh,
it's like the rabbit, you know, the bunny. It's the music going home.
hmm
How we keep that track alive.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see the next 10 years or see where the music goes or the legacy of the group. Those are all interesting scenarios and questions that I don't know. I don't know what their plans are beyond all this. Um, yeah, I mean, one of the things that when we went on our own, we definitely didn't want to be the Four Seasons. We wanted to be our own guys because uh, I think we had our own experiences, but we took from that. But I don't think that, I mean, obviously, if you're going to have a Four Seasons band down the road, I, what are you going to do? You're going to hire an actor that sounds like Frankie, or it's different. And there's so many groups out like ours today that are tribute
Yes.
groups, and there's like, I can throw a rock and hit a group these days that have all been a cast member of Jersey Boys or a musical, and but it's so I don't have the answers, but I do know there's not too many groups like ours that have been fortunate to be a part of that real group and continuing on with the music, because I think that's a legacy that is important, and I think it's we treat it with respect
Yes.
and love, and yeah, we just kind of follow in the footsteps that were before us, and very fortunate.
Well, Charles, that was a good question, but I see with Brian and the Modern Gentleman, that's one way of carrying on the music of Frankie Valli, because here you have 4 actual members from the Four Seasons band out there. I just think it's great.
Yeah, and
But the question is, I mean, from what I see where I live, and I live in a different part of the country than all of you, but what I see around here is that people more focused on the Jersey Boys than they are the Four Seasons. And it's difficult to get them to relate back to the original source of the sounds. And they just look at the Jersey Boys, and I have trouble. I guess because I know so much that
mhm.
that we can't get them to look at the bigger picture.
Yeah, I mean, it's the demographics too. I mean, that obviously brought the music to a younger generation, and that's their reference, sadly.
Yeah.
Or not sadly,
Yeah,
but
but
it's what
yeah,
they
It's
have
just
at
their
their
reference.
feet.
understood. Yeah.
Right. So if they the true fans or the true people that want to know have to do the research and go back to the original records and listen to those things. But yeah, I mean, yeah.
Well, yeah, I
Well,
think it is being carried on. I mean, as you were referring to these groups that are doing the catalog of the Four Seasons and Jersey Boys, it's like almost a cottage industry around the world. There must be 1,000 of
Oh,
them,
yeah.
right?
And there's so many. There's groups like the Coasters, Drifters, and and there's no original members. And I
At
know there's a
all.
lot of
yeah.
Yeah.
no. And there's if there's a couple people out there that are part of like a foundation that are trying to limit this thing that's
Yeah.
going on, because they're fooling people to think that they're
Yep.
real ties to the group. So they're trying to block these, and there is kind of restrictions in certain states for these groups that
Yeah, there's certain
can,
legislation that
Mhm.
stops this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's but one thing, we're not trying to copy what we did with Frankie. We make it our own. And it's like, even when we do the Frankie stuff, we don't do it the same way we did with Frank. I mean, we all take turns on the verses, we sing it our own way. So in that regard, I personally don't think we have, we have the harmony sound, but we don't have, my brother sings all the top stuff, but I would never, I don't think we want to be a carbon copy of just that catalog.
No.
It just wouldn't
Well,
work. And
you can
so,
do the season sound. You can do the West Coast surf
Do all
car
do
stuff.
yeah,
You can do Motown.
yeah,
You can do
we love
everything.
Motown, Beach Boys, everything, Bee
Yeah,
Gees.
everything.
You guys do it all. Do it all, and so well. And so well.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We've been
Yeah.
fortunate to learn from some of the very best. I mean,
Yeah.
sharing the stage with Frankie and getting to work with the Beach Boys and Manhattan Transfer. And
Manhattan Transfer. Yeah.
yeah, we've been very fortunate.
So before we close, do we have time for a little controversy now? So
Oh,
you do share a little kinship with Ken in terms of what I would think would be somewhat of a disappointment. It's like 16 years ago now. You recorded a CD of Frank Sinatra standards, all arranged by
Yeah.
Artie Schreck, and I haven't heard them, but based on what I hear, they're supposed to. Well, I hear you every now and then. You guys do a little bit of it, right?
yeah, we do one in our live shows still just to keep
Yeah.
it alive, and
Right.
they're fun.
Tremendous stuff. I'm sure it's great. But where is it? What happened to it? It's never been released. Why? Why not? What is this thing that who is it? Frankie? Is it Gaudio? What do they have about releasing recorded material? It seems ridiculous to me.
I share your sentiment. Let me say this. Okay, so we started doing this. This was when Frankie started seeing us having a career, and so once
Right.
again, he brought me into the studio. We get the arrangements from Artie. Frankie would dissect them all and change them all.
Yeah.
And so I would have to be the guy to sing all the four parts, and then Robbie would be, engineering everything in the studio, and then we'd sit on it, and then it would change. But it's like he would never be satisfied with the arrangement, and that's one of the things with artists. You're never, unless you have like a maybe an executive producer or somebody saying like, this sounds great, now leave it, don't touch it anymore. But I think he just wanted to keep fooling with it, and time gets away, and other projects come in, and it was frustrating. And we had Artie come down, and we recorded with Artie, and who's a legend.
Yes.
And we've been fortunate to have him come to our show, and we sang a lot of his arrangements for him, and that was special for us. But I don't have the answer, but it is Frankie's decision, unfortunately. And I know Robbie has them somewhere in a vault somewhere, and they're beautiful songs. I wish we could have released it as an a cappella album, as well as having instruments, which we have instruments on there that was recorded at Kenny Nolan's son's studio, I believe. And so they're beautiful songs, but the one positive we always take away is it kind of showed us that we can do this as a group, and it inspired us to go out and do our own thing.
Well, that's good on that end, but boy, we'd love to hear that album. Oh
yeah, I would too.
Yeah.
I mean, there might be ways to hear a couple tracks on YouTube.
Okay.
So,
All right.
Thank you.
yeah.
Okay.
Here's a little comic note I thought we could
Okay.
end. Are you familiar with or any relationship to Lexi Vex and the Modern Gentleman?
No, but we tried to get out of that thing. Yeah, that's for online Spotify, all the music stuff, and we get associated with that other group that was similar to our name. So I have no idea who they are.
I played, just out of curiosity, I played one of their songs. They sound sort of like I would say punk rock or grunge.
Yeah.
The name of the song was Big Shiny Bomb.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
I
No.
found that. Hear the name there.
Do you think the current iterations of Dick Clark's cavalcade of stars that go around, like the happy days that the Turtles,
Happy Together,
Mark Lindsay,
Happy
got
Together
going on now?
tour,
You think those will continue with multiple groups, and you'll participate in those, or those?
I hope so. I hope no. They're doing it again next year. I follow it quite closely, actually.
Oh, good.
They're doing another run. I've reached out to them just to kind of see if they'd be interested in us. And a lot of the times when I reach out, one of the criteria is like, oh, we have still the original members, and so it's not like Frankie needs to or wants to do that thing, because he can stand on his own, of course.
Yeah.
But then the next question becomes, can you do all Four Seasons tunes? Which we can, but we don't like to do that because that's not.
That would not be of any value to you in your own image.
Right. And so we face that quite a bit in our own interest of people looking to do concerts, like group concerts with us. Like we're doing next year, we're going to do. Have you heard of the Malt Shop Cruise?
Sure.
So we're going to be finally doing that next year. But the fight for so many years was we just want you to do all Four Seasons tunes. And I'm like,
Oh.
we're not going to do that. And
No.
I mean, we can, and have we done a majority of those in the past? Yes, but to be a, kind of more of a fair representation of who we are
You have
now.
such diversity with what you sing.
Thanks.
You,
I mean,
you can
yeah.
relate to
So
many more people that are just interested in one or two groups.
yeah, so I appreciate that. Yeah, and then so we're doing a couple group shows where there's maybe a Motown act. Okay, we'll just cut out the Motown section of our show, and we're doing that in Cerritos in January, George.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, so that'll be a fun night.
Great.
Oh,
that's
Yeah, so
I
yeah,
did.
we're just
I wanted to bring up one of your CDs. I think it was the more recent of them, the non-Christmas one, Happiest Days. That was an original song.
yeah.
Of course, you do mostly covers of 60 songs, 60s, but that was an original, which I thought was great. The vocal harmonies in there were great.
Really
Thank you.
Someone who
good.
like does your arrangements and the vocal arrangements?
Yeah, so this particular record with the original,
Yeah.
it's the title of the thing called Happiest Days. But basically, we reached out to a mutual friend of ours, and he's a phenomenal arranger. He's arranged for Manhattan Transfer, Take Six, Pentatonics. He did something just recently for for Take Six. He does orchestrations and things. So he did our entire album and just kind of brought our sound to a new level, and just really cool, intricate harmonies. It's still kind of true to the original melody, but it just kind of is definitely, you can tell it's the Modern Gentleman sound now. And that's something we've always wanted, to kind of elevate our sound. And we're not arrangers and that sort of thing. So to have that person join our team, his name is Andrew Kessler. He's amazing.
Do you think the
Great.
market is such today with the different playlists, the Spotify, the lack of a lot of radios? They just play canned tracks anymore. They don't play live radio. Do you think there's any market for a some new original sounds from your group that you could get enough of an audience to make them a hit?
We tried. It's really, really hard. We've tried getting on like America's Got Talent and those type of things, and it's a grind. And we're all getting older, and we all have families, and it's a challenge, honestly. So yeah, I mean, the short answer would be yes. I think there is, but you have to be lucky. You have to just keep going out there and putting stuff out there, and continually, and just see what sticks almost. But yeah, it's not easy.
Best of luck.
Yes.
Any more questions, fellas?
No, I'm good. I want to thank Charles, Anthony, of course, Brian. Really appreciate your time, and hope I'm attempting to get out to the Paula Casino. If not, for sure Cerritos. But I have to see you, Modern Gentlemen, in concert. I have to.
Do too.
Oh, thank you. Thank
I
you.
wonder that place you mentioned, Farmingham. There is a Nemacolin Woodlands is a resort in the Laurel Mountain area. There is I don't know if that's called the Farmingham area or not. Maybe you're talking about someplace entirely different, but that would be the one area I would think of. Nemacolin Woodlands Resort.
Well, hopefully it works out. I'll let you know. And as far the closest to you, I think would be Easton, but that's probably a few hours from you.
That's on the other side. That's near Philadelphia. So
yeah, we're there in March, so we're trying. We'll get out there at some point, I hope. So
Okay.
Open.
Okay, for
pleasure,
those who are listening to us today, this morning, the Modern Gentlemen have a Facebook page, The Modern Gentlemen. You can keep up with them on the Facebook page and subscribe to their page, and they'll send you information on their upcoming shows and new releases and so forth. And they also have a website, themodern.gentleman.net, where you can track their progress and see what's going on, and even purchase their CDs, like the ones we showed you here today.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Fun.
We appreciate you joining us. All the best.
Thank you all.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.